philosopher once said
Mais alto.
that religion is a kind of object that
Yeah.
makes people avoid.
Right.
Considering this thought, what do you define Buddhism?
Define
Buddhism.
Buddhism?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a word, neutral. Neutrality. The Buddhist position is one of neutrality. So by what that means, the religion's the opiate of the people, that idea. So then I guess Buddhism would just be kind of like nodding, just like dozing a little bit. Not, but I don't accept his analysis, right? Because someone pointed out also, and what's the inverse? Is, opium becomes the religion of the people, right? Sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's the inverse. So what's the truth of the matter is, what is reality? Forget, why do we have to always look to the most ignorant people imaginable and then base our systems, aspirations on because there's some ignorant jerk somewhere who doesn't get it, right? So our focus, we'll just absorb ourselves in the energy of ignorant people, right? Why should, you can understand when someone is obsessed to that degree, it's a reaction, it's the position of a reactionary in the sense of being a reaction to something they dislike, rather than focusing on substantially what is reality. You think religion's the opiate of the people. Okay, the mass is ass. I get it. We already dealt with that. Right? The mass is ass. Right? It's another way, really, of saying vox populi is not vox dei. Let's throw that in the mix too. So then these ignorant people for whom religion is the opiate, if we introduce multicultural, pluralistic democracy, they turn into geniuses? What are these ignorant people under your beautiful multicultural, pluralistic democracy? What are they going to create? Right? So then we have American pop consumer culture. Every website in the world is plastered with the latest information about Britney Spears and people like that. This is the genius of democracy. Right? This is what we have to offer to the world, something really substantial, as opposed to like a God concept. Right? Or the better ones, we say, well, Richard Rorty says, Henry James is God. So let's all bow down to Henry James. I mean, he's a good writer, right? But is he a substitute for God? Not my book. Then you might say, which one of your books? And then you'd have them.
You told the story about that loving mother that...
Yes, right. How love suppresses defects. That was the idea. Blemishes. No, see, wait, no, this is the point. What is objective is not real in any lasting sense. This is where the confusion comes in. You say, oh, he's blind. Really, he's blind. Right? That's objectively speaking. But to diminish his existence on the basis of the substance of who he is on the basis of some objective criteria is wrong and unloving and insensitive. That's the idea. Whereas from a subjective point of view, love can manage these things. Love can harmonize. See, on an objective plane, we won't find peace or harmony. There's a yoga for peace thing going on in the park right now, and if we all believe, it's not going to happen. Never happened, not happening now, not going to happen, because there's a conflict of interest. That's the problem. We can say all these nice platitudes about loving everyone and peace and harmony, but the problem is we're in the world of exploitation, where one living being lives at the expense of another. You thrive here by exploiting others. Let's spell it out what it is, and don't try and sugarcoat it by calling it, democracy or this type of market capitalism. It's about exploitation. That's how you live here. So in the world of exploitation, to talk about peace is silly. It's foolish. Never has been, isn't at present, and won't be in the future. So then, what can you do? Individually, you can do something. there's a Vedic saying, Apmavan Manitejaga, understand the world by understanding yourself. In the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, what can you do? Tolerate. Don't try and correct the world, try and correct yourself. Take all this analytical tendency and fault-finding tendency and apply it to yourself, and you'll make progress. As long as we're going to complain about the environment, other people, systems, we're going to be in the same situation.
So you say if you try to correct yourself, you will change society. Is this the
No, at least that's the most you can do. Right? And that'll have a good influence upon others if they choose to appreciate that. It's not like there haven't been any good people up to this point. You know, good intention, good-hearted souls, want good things. You know, why is the world still the way it is?
Yes.
Because this is the world of exploitation. It's a scientific fact. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It can't be airbrushed out, photoshopped away, or by wishful thinking vanish. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That means everything, not just physical action, speech, thinking, talk, inner relationships. So we can't now simply ignore everything we've done up to this point because we're anticipating the negative effects of karmic reactions. So people say, put it in a phrase. Someone wrote a book called, "Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People?" And let's just like cut to the chase here. Right? Why do bad things happen to good people? There's a one-word answer to this question: karma. That's why. So it means they've done nothing observable that warrants this type of reaction. Well, then maybe in the past, and it's a scientific fact, it's a reaction to some former, maybe a former life. Oh, you mean then we have to embrace the concept of reincarnation too? Then it becomes sensible or tenable. But see, so do we want to establish ourselves here in the objective world or in the subjective world? You look at all those books. That in one sense is representation of the subjective world. By nature, we want to live in the subjective plane. What is this place about? It's showing images, sounds, and things that are supposed to like transport you into. You leave the objective world for a while and you live in a subjective plane. Why do we do that? Why do human beings do that? Right? Because we are subjective beings. We're spiritually conscious beings. We can't, it doesn't matter how you rearrange matter or the material world. We'll never be able to sustain our existence here. Even scientifically speaking, it's got a number on it. Right, like, 10 years to the 12th power or 15th, they can argue, well, I think it's to the 18th. But the one point they're all in agreement on is that this world will vanish. No more Brazil, no more New York, India, any of these things. Then will anything remain? We're betting that the soul is eternal, the consciousness will still exist. We're hedging our bets with that.
How do you change the objective world living in?
Don't try to. That's the point. It's a waste of time to direct your energy here. You know the poet Shelley? Yeah, he wrote a famous poem called Ozymandias, right, about Ramses 1, 2, or 3. Take your pick. And in that he says, I'm paraphrasing, he says, I met this, a traveler in an ancient land. And he told him about something extraordinary he saw. What was that? He said, out in this vast desert area, there was this broken statue. And he said, from the trunk, broken at the waist, and then there was an inscription. The head was lying half buried under the sand. And he said, whoever the sculptor was, he really captured this man. Who, he said, you could still see this sneer, this arrogant look on his face, and the stone half buried in the sand. And the inscription said, I am Ozymandias. Look upon my kingdom in despair, you little people. And he said, but when you look, all you see in all directions is just desert sand, nothing, no kingdom. So his point was, however you try to establish yourself in the objective world. Like, does anyone know who Ozymandias is? This guy once king of the world, had everything going his way, the whole objective world at his feet. Now, no one even knows who he is. He's irrelevant, insignificant. This world is of that nature. Right? So then, what are we to get from it? While we're here, we have a limited amount of time. That's what we're told. Human life is that opportunity for liberation. See, animals, instinct. They're how do you say, dealing with demerit. Right? In the subjective evolution of consciousness of the soul, when the soul is in the lower species, it's living out karmic demerit. What about gods and goddesses? They're saying, well, then you're enjoying enjoying energy. Right? So that's a distraction. Either way, what's the optimal position for spiritual realization? Human life. We're in the best position, and we have a small window of opportunity to realize what's before us. And that we get the wealth that's being gathered is coming in connection with the saint who's like a living scripture. They're revealed truth, but then saints are the agents of revealed truth. They're making these things relevant. So like a lawyer sits in front of a bunch of law books. One page in there is relevant to your case. That's why you need that person. The saints are like that. There are so many things to be considered. There's one page in particular that's very relevant to your position. That's why you approach the saint for that type of adjustment.
You said that India is an ideational society.
No, I said that Sorokin, the so-called father of sociology, he said that. I'm just using him.
You don't
I do, but I would have to explain it with greater depth. It was, it's a simplistic way of.
Okay.
Now you're finding how much I don't like him. No, I like him very much.
India is considered an emerging economy. Is India changing?
No, that's India. Yeah, well, India, religion comes from India, is what I meant to say. Just religion itself, of all time, really, it comes from there. The God concept. This is their gift, and it's there in spades. It's in the people's genetic material. So you'll find out when as they advance materially. Give you one example where they behave in unpredictable ways. Cloning, stem cell research, and all this. Like, it's a big moral issue in Judeo-Christian based countries, right? It's not an issue for Indian doctors. Why? They said, we've got this in Mahabharata, it's just part of they don't have a problem with it. Because it's in Vedic scriptures. These kind of things are described there already. So they can get their heads around it. Whereas the Judeo-Christian side, it's this whole moral about when the soul and not, and can you do this? They're not having that problem. So that means they're poised to make a lot of progress, on the objective side. So we'll see. Now the Olympics are in China. We see China when they got away from trying to change the world through, communism, and then they realized, as Dylan said, money doesn't talk, it swears. So they got into the money program. They're pretty focused now. Now India's doing that. But what are we? We're just back. It's the world of exploitation. So we're trying just to conclude. So we're saying, in the midst of mundane affluence, fine, but learn to be a dedicating unit. That's the cure for these things. Is learn to dedicate. And dedicate towards the center. The center means God. Let's spell it out. Krishna, God, the supreme central absolute truth. When you dedicate towards the center, everything else is nourished. You want to water these? Pour water here. Pour water. You can turn the camera for that. Pour water on the roots, and they'll all get nourishment. Don't try and this one needs some, that one, but wait, there's one over here. Oh, there's this cause, oh, that cause. There's so many things competing for your attention. You want to deal with everything? Pour water on the root. It's all taken care of. Pour water on the root means dedicate yourself to the absolute center, Krishna, God, and then you can escape the negative reaction of the world of exploitation. Thank you.
Thank you.